Good evening, everyone, and welcome to today's webinar. We'll wait for a couple of minutes so that the rest of the participants can join in. We'll start in a couple of minutes. Thank you. Good evening once again and welcome to today's webinar. I am Radhika Mujumdar. I am career counselor here at Videsh, and today we are going to talk about everything related to grad school applications for fall of 2026. In today's 1 hour, in the next 1 hour, I'm going to be taking you through all the things that you will require or you should do in order to apply for grad schools in the fall of 2026. Okay, and the deadlines for fall 2026 are in December of this year. So I'm going to be taking you through each aspect in every detail. For those of you who have questions or who are not able to follow completely through or who have joined late, we will be recording a session. We will be recording this session and posting it on our YouTube channel later on. So in the follow-up email that I'll be sending you tomorrow morning, probably will have the link to the YouTube recording session also, so that you can view it as per your convenience. Okay, so that is one thing. I'll start sharing my screen. Just a moment. Yeah, so today's webinar is all about all the things that are required for grad school applications for fall of 2026. Okay, so considering that you will be applying for fall of next year, you will be requiring these things on your profile that will be needed to fine tune or refinement, and you will be good to go for your applications. Okay, so I'll take you through all these things in the agenda, but then today, if today is your first session, first webinar that you are attending from Videsh, I'd just like to give you a quick background of what Videsh is and something about our co-founders. Okay. So, Videsh was founded by three co-founders, Dr. Raj, Dr. Rajat, and Dr. Sridath. And all of these co-founders are graduates from IIT Madras and hold their PhDs from MIT and Purdue respectively. Okay, all of them have got 100% scholarships when they had been admitted to MIT and Purdue. So they have completed their PhDs with full scholarships. Okay, when they were in the process of applying for their PhDs, when they were in IIT Madras, they realized that there was no professional guidance, there was no professional mentorship to guide guide them through the entire process. Okay. Also, along with that, they also realized that research is highly underestimated. Okay, it's not really valued the way it should be. And that is something that they realized at the time of applications when they actually went to MIT and Purdue. At that time also, a lot of juniors reached out to them from their own college, from different colleges, having their references to help them or to guide them in their applications. So that is when they realized that there is a dire need for students. There is actually a need for a professional mentorship and um, something that could actually guide students one to one. Okay, so that is when they founded Videsh. That is when Videsh was founded, and that is actually it's been 3 years since Videsh was founded, and up till now we have helped more than 100 students get into their dream universities. So that is basically what Videsh is all about. We are helping students to get into their dream universities through a lot of factors, and through helping each student improve their profile through very specific things. Okay, so I'll just take you through today's agenda in a quick bit. First of all, we are going to be talking about the high level of grad school application. We are going to be looking at the grad school application at a very high level. And after that, we are going to be talking about everything in detail. We are going to be talking about all of the things in detail. Okay, so we are going to be talking about first university shortlisting, then we are going to be jumping towards statement of purpose, LORs and resume, that is the documents required, and then I'm going to be talking a little bit about the exams that are required, and then one of the very most and crucial points of the grad school application process, but then very very underestimated or very underrated, is the research profile. Okay, and then at the end I'm going to be talking a little bit about the long term mentorship program. Okay, so first of all, for grad school applications you need to decide first whether you want to apply for masters or PhD. Okay, that is a very important point that you need to consider. For a few students, or for most of the students, it is a very obvious choice because they've already done their masters. But then for people who are graduating from their undergrad right now, it becomes a kind of a confusing choice whether to apply for a combined degree of masters plus PhD, or should I apply only for masters, or I should apply for direct PhD after few years of work. Okay, that is a very important decision that you need to make, and that decision should be made depending upon the programs. Okay, and that also depends a lot on the personality that you have, because for PhDs, it is very very obvious that PhDs take more time to finish, more approximately a year or couple more in the US as compared to Europe. Masters takes approximately 1.5 to 2 years to finish, and there is also a third type of program that is available, which is called as the integrated PhDs. Okay, so the integrated PhDs actually give you an option of graduating right after masters. So integrated PhD is basically masters plus PhD, but then they don't have a compulsion of you finishing your PhD and then getting a degree. Integrated PhD gives you an option to graduate right after your masters if you feel that PhD is not your cup of tea, or it's just getting too much, or it is too much on your plate. So you can directly graduate right after masters. That is also a degree that many universities are offering, and that is also something that you should consider. Okay, now when I say that PhDs are nearly 100% funded, by that I mean the funding has to be secured. There are different things that you should do to get this funding, or there are different ways in which you can be proactive to aim to get such a funding. Okay, because the given the political conditions in the US right now, it has become very difficult for students to get funding for their PhDs, and that is why we advise students not just to apply to the US, or to have at least two countries in their list of universities. It's not impossible, but then it's become comparatively tough as compared to the previous years. Now, next we come to the documents, or the checklist of requirements. Okay, the first thing is a GPA. Now, when I say good GPA, GPA is something that is not actually something you can control. For students who have already passed out of their undergrad, or students who are, or participants who are already working or pursuing their masters, GPA is something that we always try hard to get, but then it doesn't always happen the way we want. Some of us have average or a little bit below average GPAs, but then there are ways to offset that GPA. I'm going to talk about that in the coming slides, but then GPA is something which is important. For those of you who have very good GPAs, it's a very good point in your application, and usually is looked at as a uh, very strong point in your application. Okay, the next thing that you will require is a statement of purpose, a resume, and three letters of recommendation. Now, for US universities, you will require three LORs, and for European universities, you will require two letters of recommendation. Okay, and the next thing is a research profile. So by research profile, I mean at least a first author research publication. One first author research publication under your name adds a very big value to your profile. Okay, the reason I'm saying that is because one of our co-founders, Dr. Raj, had only one first author research publication at the time he applied to MIT from IIT Madras, and his GPA was not, I mean, it was an average GPA. He was not at the top of his class, it was an average GPA. That one thing that helped him get an admit from MIT was that research paper publication. Okay, so that is how important it is to have at least one first author research publication under your name. And for those of you who have done a lot of research projects but have not converted those into research papers, now is the right time to do that. Okay, and then GRE, TOEFL, IELTS, some of the mandatory exams that are required to apply for grad schools, and then the deadlines. Okay, so deadlines are also very important to note. Like I said at the beginning of this webinar, deadlines for fall will be in December of this year. Okay, around first or second week of December, right? And then I already talked about funding. Okay, so for masters it is comparatively difficult to get funding, but for PhDs you still can get fellowships or research assistantships when you are getting an admit from university. Okay, I'm going to be talking about university shortlisting, because the first thing that you should do at this point, now that we are almost at the end of August, is shortlisting of universities. Okay, like I said, the university shortlisting should be done based on your areas of interest first, and then next, the kind of programs that are offered in the universities. Okay, also, like I said, a mixture of two countries is something that you should always look at. Not just apply to only US universities, but also include at least one other country from some universities from another country as well. Okay, I'm going to be now showing you an Excel sheet um, which you should start making right now if you have not done so. And here I want you to make a list of approximately 30 to 35 universities that you are interested to apply to. Okay, also the very important thing here to note here is that you should also know the programs that you are going to apply to these universities. Okay, and when you look at QS university rankings of these universities, don't just look at the overall ranking. Okay, look at the program ranking as well, because in a lot of cases it happens that the program ranking is different from the university ranking. Okay, that usually happens. So what you should do is that it's always better to look at the ranking, department ranking, rather than the university ranking. I'm talking about the QS university ranking here. Okay, so what you should essentially do is make an Excel sheet. On the leftmost column, list down all the universities that you are interested to apply to. This list should be as big as 30 to 35 universities. And after you make this list, what we are going to do at the end is we are going to shortlist this into 9 or 10 universities. Okay, that is why it is important for you to have at least 30 to 35 universities in your list, right? So on the right hand side, if you can see, you can leave the column 2 blank for now, but then from column 3 onwards, all the information can be found on the university website. Okay, like the deadlines, LORs, if GRE is required, if what is the minimum GPA that is required, TOEFL, QS rankings, all the things that are required, the application websites, and then at the end there can also be a column about the research details, right? The research lab details. Okay, I'm going to be talking about that later on. But then this is something that you should be ready with right now, now that we are at the end of August. And here, um, the column 2 can be filled up later on when you are shortlisting these universities. Okay, when you are selecting those 10 or 9 or 10 universities out of this big list of 30-35 universities is when you should fill out this column. I'll tell you what this column is. The column 2 basically gives out the list, the ranking of those universities based on your profile. Okay, so when I say easy, according to your profile, if a particular university is easy, that means you have very good chances of getting into that university. Okay, medium universities is a little bit difficult, but then still there are realistic chances of you getting into that university. And then hard or dream universities are the universities that are a little difficult for you to get into, but then should be included in your university final university shortlisted list. Okay, so the general rule is 3 easy universities, 3 medium universities, and 3 to 4 hard universities or dream universities. That is how you should make a list of 9 to 10 universities when you are shortlisting them. Very, very important point, which is going to actually set the base for the rest of your applications, is the university shortlisting. This list has to be made and has to be thoroughly researched by each candidate very well on their own before they make an application. You should exactly know what kind of program this particular university is offering, and all the details related to it. Okay, you can fill up this master sheet right now, and then at the time of shortlisting those 10 universities later on, you can then refer to the same sheet. Okay, that will save you a lot of time later on, right? Now we are moving to the next point, which is the statement of purpose. Okay, we are now moving towards the documentation part that is required in the application process. The first is the statement of purpose. Okay, so when I tell you to write an essay about yourself, about your ambitions, about your educational professional achievements, and what your aspirations are and why you would want to enroll or why you want to be admitted in a particular university, it might seem a bit overwhelming at first. Okay, it's not very easy to write your own life journey or your life story in a very compelling way. Okay, it's very overwhelming for most of the people. Okay, but then what we have done is we have broken down the SOP writing into 4 different parts. Okay, so I'm going to be talking about each of these parts in very detail, but then the first part is the thread, the second part is the hook, the third part is the supporting cast, and the fourth part is casting the net. Okay, so we are going to be talking about the thread first. The thread is basically your vision. Okay, it is the vision of your SOP. It is what you want to do, what your end goals are, what your vision is. Okay, a vision can be a single liner also. Okay, I'm going to be demonstrating this with an example here. I'm going to be giving you an example of one of our co-founders SOP here, and here you can see that the thread in his SOP was that he wanted to create an impact through the field of fluid dynamics. Okay, he wanted to apply in the for masters and PhD in fluid dynamics, and that is why the vision here mentioned in his SOP was that he wanted to create an impact in the field of fluid dynamics. This is the single most vision that he carried in all the paragraphs or throughout his SOP that binded his SOP together. Okay, it's very important that you find that thread in your story. Okay, when you are telling that story about yourself, it's very important that you have a vision. Okay, the next part is the hook. Okay, so the hook is actually the strength of your profile. The that one thing or those couple of things or maybe more things that you're very proud of, and that you want to actually showcase. Okay, so a hook can be a strong GPA, a hook can be a research profile, and a hook can also be something like a very notable extracurriculars. Okay, but then a hook can be developed. Okay, so if there is someone out of many of you who is thinking that if there is nothing as such, there's nothing special, really special in my profile, and nothing as such that can be described as a hook can be developed through your research profile. Okay, a research publication is considered as the most important hook in your profile. The example that I demonstrated earlier of Dr. Raj, he had a research paper publication, and that alone helped him to get into MIT with a 100% scholarship. Okay. Here also, I'm going to be talking about his SOP, where he mentions that during his year at IIT Madras, he presented the a paper at the fluid mechanics conference. Okay, so this was the same paper that I was talking about, and this was the only publication that he had at that time. Okay, and that was the hook of his profile. That was a very important hook, and that actually led him to something more. He actually started writing another paper in the same field, but then that paper was not submitted for review. That paper was not published yet. He talks about that in the second paragraph of his book, where he mentions that the journal paper is in preparation and we plan to submit it by the end of December. Okay, so that is something also that he mentions that he's working upon, but then he also wants to let the admissions committee know that he's working on this, and that also binds his SOP to the vision. Okay, so you can see how his hook is connected to his vision, that is creating an impact through fluid mechanics. That is what I'm talking about. That is the kind of story you should put through, that is extremely compelling, very passionate, and very unique in your own way. Okay, the next part of the statement of purpose is the supporting cast. Okay, so here the supporting cast is also a hook, can also be treated as a hook, but here uh, there can be a lot of other things that are not related to the field that you're applying to, right? A lot of you might be thinking that I have a hook, but it's something that I'd done in my undergrad, or it's something that I had done in my work ex, that I'm not really, applying in the same field, okay, as same as the hook that I have. Here is where the supporting cast comes into play. And here also you can put in some things that are not directly related to the field that you're applying to. Okay. So here Dr. Raj had done an internship in ITC, which was very prestigious. He wanted to make sure that he includes that in his SOP, but then the internship was basically in installing solar panels. As you can see, it was not directly related to the field of fluid mechanics that he was applying to. Therefore, he added it as a supporting cast, but then he did not, he still made sure to mention it. Okay, he still wanted to mention it, and he did that through the supporting cast. So this was another paragraph that he wrote about, but then what happened was that he led it to the vision somehow. Okay, so he linked it to his vision. Okay, vision was to create an impact through fluid mechanics, but then still he made sure that he includes this point in his SOP because it was a very prestigious internship. The final part of the SOP is casting the net, where you actually make a pitch. Okay, where you actually try to sell yourself, or where you actually try to sell your profile. Here is where you not only make a pitch about yourself, but you also convince or try to convince the admissions committee why you are a perfect fit for their university. Okay, and how the university or the research lab is going to benefit if they admit you, right? Because that is something that universities are looking at. They are not looking for candidates who are just waiting to be admitted to gain benefits from the university. They are looking for people who are ready to put in equal contributions to their research lab or to their university. Okay, it's a two-way street. Okay, you have to mention both sides of the same coin. Okay, you have to mention also, by mentioning the research lab and the research work that you are interested in doing in your statement of purpose, and then mention a point that I would be really thrilled if I get into this particular university, and that is how you end it. Okay, so that is where the casting the net part comes into play, and that is actually how you are actually supposed to end your statement of purpose. Okay, mentioning the research lab in your SOP is very very important. The reason I'm saying that is because it actually helps to cast a very strong net, and contributing or showing willingness to contribute in the university's research lab makes you a very proactive candidate. Okay, makes you somebody who's truly interested and passionate about research. Okay, that actually is a very positive thing for the university, and you also have to mention why you're a good fit for the university. Okay, so that is something that you should do. So to summarize, all these 4 points make a strong SOP. Now you can see that writing an SOP is not so overwhelming, it's not complicated, but then it has to be your SOP has to be perfect. Okay, SOP is that document in your application which is going to tell the story or a story about yourself that has to be compelling. Okay, it has to be a unique story, and it has to talk about all the things that you've done up till now and why you should be admitted to the university. Okay, having a strong statement of purpose is very very important. Okay, that is why I'm also going to talk about a few do's and don'ts here. And the most important don't is that don't get your SOP reviewed from people who haven't gone through the process. Okay, and if you don't have any professional mentor to guide you or to make those changes in your statement of purpose, make sure that you're not showing your SOP to people, random people who have not gone through the process. That will end up confusing you at the end, and then that will actually put up a lot of things in that SOP, or take away a lot of things from the SOP that actually shouldn't be the case. If you are taking help from seniors or from your professors, make sure that these are the people who know the grad school application process and who have a good reference point, and they have the credibility to guide you throughout the process. Okay, very very important. Don't put any cheesy quotes, cheesy lines in your SOP. Don't try to quote anybody, because that usually doesn't help, and the admissions committee is looking at getting to know you through your statement of purpose. So since there is almost always a word limit on the SOP, please make sure that you're not wasting your words by quoting somebody else. Okay, so very very important. Next thing is the letter of recommendation. Letters of recommendation are also very very important and constitute a major part, or the one of the most important parts in the documents of your application. Okay, your letter of recommendation or the letters that you submit to the university have to be strong, they have to be diverse, and they have to be credible. Okay, by strong I mean use of generic keywords should be avoided. I'll tell you what that means. Generic keywords is something like something that looks like on the left, and exceptional or a very strong statement is something that looks on the right. Okay, so I'm not telling you to go over the top, but then being generic is something that makes your LOR look very very weak. Okay, usually such generic statements come up or they appear when your professors are drafting LORs on their own, and that is something I'm saying by experience, because if some professor is not allowing you to draft your own LOR, and if they are insisting that they draft and a letter of recommendation for you, then they have this generic template that they use for almost every student, and it looks like something like the one on the left. Okay, so refrain from doing that. Always politely ask the professors to draft your own letters of recommendation, so that you can have control in your hands and you can use better adjectives, better statements better than those generic ones that you can see on the left. Okay, so that is the reason why having a strong LOR, or drafting your own LOR, is very very important. Okay, and by diverse I mean that if you are applying for universities, for grad schools, it's always better to take two letters of recommendation from academia, from professors, and one LOR from industry. Okay, if somebody, or if any of you don't have a work ex or an industrial experience, taking one letter of recommendation from the mentor at where you have done your internship, that also is a very good thing. Okay, that is also something that you can do, that actually projects your profile as somebody who has in, or who is endorsed well by academia as well as industry. Okay, it puts your profile through as a diverse profile. Okay, it helps a lot in strengthening your case further. Okay, the third point is credibility. Why is it important to for your LOR to be credible? By credibility, I mean that the research work that you're mentioning in your statement of purpose, or the projects that you're mentioning in your statement of purpose, has to be verified by somebody, right? Because it's possible that people can come up with ideas, people can come up with different things in the profile that don't actually exist. And that is where a recommendation by a professor is very important. If you remember, I showed you Dr. Raj's SOP, where he'd written that one of his paper was in preparation. Okay, so that also has to be endorsed by a professor. Okay, that also has to be mentioned somewhere in your LOR, that this particular paper is in preparation and will be submitted once it's ready. Okay, so that is what makes your entire profile credible. If there is a scenario where something is mentioned in your SOP and is not verified by your LOR, that is usually considered as a weak profile and can be grounds for rejection. Okay, because something is there in your SOP that is not verified by a person or by professor in their letter of recommendation, and that actually takes away all the credibility from your profile. So make sure that these documents are coherent, and there's no gap that you find in between any of these documents. Okay, that is why it's so very important. Then I'm going to talk about the resume. This is the third document in your application process, and which is the resume. Okay, resume is a short concise version of your entire profile. Okay, it's like your it can be a 2 page long for a master's, and it can be 3 page long for a PhD application. Okay, it's like a very bullet pointed, brief, concise version that you are sending across to the grad schools. And the resume that you submit to grad schools looks very very different from the resume that you submit to industries. Okay, for job applications. Okay, so these two things are very different. If you look at the resume of Dr. Sridhar on the right, you can see that here he has mentioned his educational qualifications. Bottom of the page, or the middle of the page, he's mentioned his publications and patents. Now, for any of you who don't have any publication, or there are no patents, but there are projects in your profile, please remember that these projects can be converted into a publication. Okay, and having at least one research publication will help your profile by a great deal. It will actually elevate the quality of your profile by 5 times, 4 to 5 times. Okay, so very very important. Here, if you can see that he's mentioned a link to a portfolio website here. Okay, I'm going to talk about the portfolio website later on in my presentation, but then I just want you to remember for now that in the resume you can mention the link to your portfolio website. Okay,
Sorry to
the
interrupt.
key elements to your profile, or for an impactful resume, can be that you have to highlight everything point wise, and you have to mention, or you have to make sure that none of the points is messed up. Okay, and the rules for do's and don'ts go as the same as your statement of purpose. Don't get your resume reviewed by people who are not well versed with this process. And disclosure of any personal information is strictly forbidden. Okay, so don't write your don't attach your photos, don't put in your marital status, your gender, your any kind of personal information is should not be disclosed here. Okay, so very very important, right? And another important point here is that these three documents should tell the same story. There should not be a single point that is mentioned in one document and is not present in the rest of the two documents. Okay, so please make sure that all of the things that are mentioned in these three set of documents are coherent, are completely coherent. Okay, so please remember this point. It looks like a very simple point, but then when you put all the things together, sometimes it happens that students tend to miss out on one or two things, and that actually can be a ground for rejection. Okay, we don't want your application to be rejected just because your documents were not coherent. Okay, so please, this point is very very important, don't forget it, right? Then I'm going to be talking about the exams. Okay, so GRE especially is not mandatory by most of the universities in the US. We've looked at a lot of universities, and they have decided, or they have chosen to waive off GRE scores, or they have kept GRE scores optional. Okay, so that is why if you have not given a GRE up till now, please go into the university website and check if a GRE is mandatory for the program that you want to apply to. Okay, and then only take dates for this exam and give this particular exam, because it looks like a very simple maths and English exam, but it's not. It's kind of complicated and takes time to prepare. Okay, it has a certain format and a certain set of questions that are asked in a certain way, and there is, like, negative marking also for this particular exam, and the set of questions that are asked after you get a question wrong depends on the difficulty level of the previous question. Okay, so it's like a completely different formatted exam and needs time to prepare. Okay, so whether or not you want to give this exam should be the decision should be taken uh, uh, after researching the university website and the program and the department, if the GRE is mandatory. Okay, there is a website called as the GregMat, which a lot of our students use, and which has a very cheap subscription, I think $5-6 per month, where you can also give a lot of mock tests. Okay, so that is something that you can check out. And please, before giving GRE or before taking dates for GRE, please make sure that your program has made GRE mandatory. Okay, some of the programs, it's very clearly written that GRE scores will not be considered even if submitted. Okay, so that really, you can focus that time that you can that would be used for GRE preparation, you can use it for something else. Okay, you can build your research profile in the same amount of time. Okay, TOEFL and IELTS are comparatively easy English exams, and generally required for international applicants when they are applying to US and European universities. So they are basically English exams and don't take more than 2-3 weeks of preparation. So they are comparatively easy to attempt and easy for you to score. Okay, so that is something that you should, because these exams are mandatory for you to give, and this is something that should be done, and the score should be submitted to different universities at the time of giving your exam. Okay, here I have mentioned a few things where that you can use for your GRE and TOEFL prep. For GRE, like I said, the website GregMat is a great tool for preparing for GRE instead of all these tools that ETS provides. TOEFL has, for TOEFL preparation, there is this app called Magoosh, which has flashcards that you can even look at from your mobile, and that actually helps in building a lot of English vocabulary. Okay, so it's like a very good application that displays flashcards in certain intervals of time as per the settings, and it's like a very good way to prepare for vocabulary on the go. Okay, it can be done from your mobile as well, right? So now I'm going to be talking about a very important point in your grad school application process, something that is really underrated by a lot of universities, and a lot of emphasis should be given to building a research profile in undergrad itself, but then that actually doesn't happen. And that is why I'm going to be talking about at length about having a research profile. Okay, so what exactly is a research profile and why is it so important? I already talked about having a research profile or having a first author publication can get you your dream university, and that actually having a research profile has the capability to offset not so good GPAs as well. Okay, so having a research profile is extremely powerful, but then it is very important for you to know at the same time what constitutes of a research profile. Okay, so a research profile can be counted as something on the right. Okay, so what you can see on the left is not actually a research profile. It can be, you can have a lot of projects, you must have done a lot of internships in your undergrad, even people who have work experience, you must have done a lot of projects that are very research oriented, but that actually doesn't constitute a research profile. A research profile has to have a publication. It needs to have a paper manuscript with you as the first author. Those are the most important things of having a research profile. That is when you say that I have a research profile. Okay, even if you have co-authored a paper or if you have helped a professor write a paper, it's not actually as valuable as having a first author publication. Okay, that is why I'm saying that the value of projects that you have, or the value of projects that you have already done in your undergrad or your work ex, have a far less value than having a single research publication. Okay, so the things that you see on the right constitute of a research profile. Okay, like I was mentioning right now, your resume on the left looks much better than the resume on the right. Okay, one paper, one conference, and as compared to 10 projects, but then the resume on the left is 5 times better than this, and this is actually the case. Okay, I'm not exaggerating even a single bit when I'm talking about this is 5 times better than this. Okay, it's actually the case. Your research profile actually puts your entire application in a completely different league than the rest of your peers. It actually gives you a lot of competitive advantages as well when you are trying to talk to professors, when you are trying to approach professors for research assistantship positions. Okay, so here, what I want to stress upon is that it's not necessarily important to publish a paper for you to mention it in your profile. Okay, if you remember Dr. Raj's resume, that or Dr. Raj's SOP that I showed you earlier, one of his paper was in preparation. Okay, here he has mentioned the same thing in his resume. Okay, that one of this paper is in preparation. Okay, and here, this particular professor also in his letter of recommendation has mentioned the exact same thing. This is what I'm talking about when I say coherent documents. Okay, it is very important for each of your document to say the exact same thing. Okay, but here, very important for you to note that even if you start now, and even if your paper has not yet been published by the time you submit your applications in probably the last week of November or first week of December, it's completely fine. That still comes under publication, that still comes under having a research profile. Okay, so very important for you to know that. And a research profile is something that can be developed, it is something that can be built. Okay, so how do you do that? How do you publish your first paper in the next 3 months? How do you do that, right? So the first option is to convert your research projects into a research paper. The next option is to write a review paper on a completely different topic, or to submit in preprints. Okay, so basically preprints are venues that we submit our papers to before we submit to actual journals or conferences. Okay, so preprints like archive are very very lenient. Okay, and usually your paper, if it is well good enough, it gets published in preprints like archive, and then we make submissions to major journals and conferences, right? A review paper is something which is a summary of many research papers written on the same topic, and also very much highly respected in their own field. Okay, so having a first author review publication also adds a lot of value, adds the same amount of value to your profile. And a lot of our students also who have written review papers have got admits from very good universities. Okay, and then journal papers, like I said, converting your research projects into a research paper publication. Okay, that is the third way in which you can publish. Okay, so here, I'm going to be talking about, so I'm going to be talking about how we are, or how the process is divided into different parts. Okay, so first of all, a topic selection is done, and then we ask you to do a literature study, and then you have to derive a hypothesis and then write the different parts of a paper manuscript. Okay, so that is how we are dedicating every all the parts of the review or research paper writing are divided into a number of days, number of weeks, and that is how a roadmap is created for every student. Okay, so this is just like a general timeline that I wanted to show you, right? So yeah, writing a literature review paper is also something that constitutes a first author paper publication, and has the same value as having a research paper, research profile. And having a review paper also constitutes in having a research profile. Okay, very important to know. I already talked about preprints. Archive is one preprint where we can submit our papers first before we submit to actual conferences and journals. And like I said, you can convert your course projects into preprints in a very structured way that actually helps you build your story, or to write your story in the statement of purpose in a very effective manner. Okay, you can go writing like, I worked on so and so project in my undergrad, and I was so passionate about the results that I ended up converting my research project into a first author research publication. Okay, so that is a very strong and a unique story that you can build up in your statement of purpose if you decide to convert your project into a research paper publication. Okay, now I'm going to be talking about the long term mentorship program, in which I'm going to be talking about how we can guide you through this entire process. Okay, sorry. The vision of long term mentorship program is to help you build a research profile, is to have a research profile for yourself, and crafting a strong application. Okay, here we are going to here I'm showing an initial crude version of the paper that one of our students had written, and this is how we had made it. Okay, so this is the final version of the paper. I'm also going to be talking about a portfolio website here. The link, if you remember, we mentioned the link in the resume for a portfolio website. The main advantage of having a portfolio website is here you can put all of the things together. Okay, you can mention or you can write everything about yourself in a single website. It's comparatively easy to make a portfolio website, but at the same time, very, very important to have a portfolio website. Okay, here I'm stressing once again upon coherency of the documents here, that statement of purpose, resume, and letter of recommendation is something that has to be coherent. Okay, this is the list that I showed at the very start of the webinar, and I'm showing it once again because I want to stress upon the fact that the details of the research labs also need to be added at the end of in the last column. Okay, here you can mention the details about the professor, about the work that is being carried out in the research lab, so that you will waste minimum time when you are actually writing your statement of purpose for every university. Okay, so that is the importance, or that is why I wanted to add another point here after taking you through the build your research profile part of the grad school application process. Okay, so this is just a visual representation of how we are generally selling our profile. Okay, so this is how we are selling it. Here the black spots are the weaknesses. By weaknesses, I don't mean actual weaknesses, but it is something that we don't want to highlight. Okay, but at the end what happens is we most probably uh, end up highlighting our weaknesses, okay, through our SOP. Our SOP should be such, it has to be drafted in such a way, or all of the documents in the application have to be put up in such a way that your profile should be upsell, okay. It shouldn't, you shouldn't undersell your profile like this. You should be upselling your profile, okay. You should actually show that the weaknesses are nothing but your strengths, and how and what you've done to overcome them, okay. So telling the story in your application or through your application is something that we call an art, and that is something that that is why I am taking you through every part of the grad school application process in detail, because at the end we want to upsell our profile, okay. We don't want to highlight our weaknesses. We don't want to highlight things that are not so positive in our profile, okay. It can be anything. It can be a gap year, it can be a low GPA, it can be something that we didn't finish on time. It can be anything, okay. So make sure that the story that you tell in your documents does not highlight any of your weakness, okay. That is why I mentioned this visual representation. And long-term mentorship program is has already started and is being mentored by our co-founders themselves, okay. So as they've gone through the entire process on their own, and they know what needs to be done, or what it takes to actually get admits from top universities. I would say that they are mentoring each and every student in the long-term mentorship program, and that is actually proving to be extremely beneficial for the students as well, okay. Once again, to reiterate, the phase one consists of building a research profile by either writing a review paper or by writing a research paper, and the duration for that is 2.5 to 3 months. So now is the perfect time to build your research profile by either writing a review paper, first author review paper, or by converting any of the projects that you have into a research paper, okay. And then the next part is perfecting your applications, where we'll be shortlisting universities for you. We'll be drafting or finalizing your statement of purpose. We'll be drafting 3 letters of recommendation for you. We'll also be guiding you through GRE, TOEFL, IELTS if you want to give them. And then we'll also help you to prepare your resume and your portfolio website. Okay. So, here are some of the testimonials that I want to show you because they were extremely, extremely positive. The responses or the kind of work that the students did through the long-term mentorship program was many papers were published, many first author review and research papers were published. Many of those papers were presented in successful or renowned conferences. Many of them were published in renowned journals. We worked upon a lot of SOPs, resumes, letters of recommendation, and portfolio websites. And we have a Discord channel for the participants who can connect to their peers, and a lot of discussion happens on Discord as well. So, those participants can interact with one another about the different universities and programs that they're applying to. Okay. So these are some sample papers from LTM phase one, a combination of both review and research papers. A review paper is always mentioned, at the heading that this is a review paper, and a research paper has a different title for every paper depending upon the content. Okay, so most of these students when they're writing a research paper, they've converted their existing project into a research paper, and for those who do not have such existing projects, they've chosen to write a review paper, preferably in the field that they are applying to. Okay, so that also makes your story very, very unique and extremely structured. Okay, these are some of the testimonials that I wanted to show you, specifically from universities like Johns Hopkins, where it is comparatively very difficult to get for international students. And here in 2024, we received a couple of admits from our students. Even for this year, we have received a couple of admits from Johns Hopkins, where it is very difficult otherwise to get admissions for international students. They have a very strict admission policy for international students, but then the research lab at Johns Hopkins is extremely renowned. Okay, so for students who want to to get into this particular university, it's like a dream university for them. Okay, so students also have got admits into very very good universities like CMU, Cornell, UC Chicago, CMU, etc. A few other messages from students that we continuously keep on getting from a lot of universities throughout the world, and these are just some of the universities that we have helped students get into. But then the details and the video testimonials are available on our website. So you can view our website and you can look at the video testimonials and the different services students have taken and the benefits that they've received. Okay, so in each of those testimonials, students talk about the long term mentorship program and how this program has helped them to get their dream university. So you can go into the website and you can look at these video testimonials as well. Okay, these are a few of more testimonials that students have sent us, messages that we have received from students. And to again reiterate, we also help you to identify good and easy problem statements for your research and review paper. So identification of problem statements or impactful problem statements is also something that we help you with. And then if you are not well versed with the entire process of a research paper or a review paper writing, we help you with that as well. So it's not like we select a particular topic and we ask you to write a research or review paper. It's usually it works in the way that we guide you in a very step by step manner, and we teach you how to write papers. Okay, and then like the Excel sheet, like the snapshot of the Excel sheet I showed you, we set a realistic timeline for every student to publish the papers within the dedicated time frame, and that is how our students are supposed to work on that every week or every day. Okay, and then we also help you to figure out with journals and conferences to submit to. So that is also a very very important point, a very important inclusion of the long term mentorship program, that picking out journals and conferences that will highlight your work in the best way possible, that is also something that we help you with. Okay, this is just a snapshot of one of our co-founders, Dr. Sridhar, his life at MIT. It was a very diverse learning experience, and it's getting admits from universities like MIT actually adds a lot of learning from different aspects, and that completely you graduate a completely different person. Okay, so this is just what I wanted to share with you. And then you can always reach out to us at hello@flyvidesh.com with all the details if you are planning to apply for grad schools in fall of next year. And if you have any questions, any concerns about your profile, you can always get in touch with us at hello@flyvidesh.com with all the details. Probably, instead of your resume, just mention the details of your profile, or you can even send the link to your LinkedIn profile and we can have a look at that. Okay, so that is how you can connect to us. And then also what you can do is you can also fill out the form. I'm going to be sharing a form with you. If you are interested in the long term mentorship program, you can fill out this form, and we'll get back to you regarding that. The form actually has information about actually where you are interested in going, if you are interested to apply for a master's or a PhD, and if what is it that you're looking at. Okay, so this particular form will actually help us to know what you are interested in, and we can get back to you personally through the details that you mentioned in this call. Okay, so that is it about today's webinar. I am going to be taking a few questions, a couple of questions that we have on chat here. So the first question is, how would I know if it's easy or hard based on my profile? So that is the kind of evaluation that we are doing for students, and that is how we are doing a profile feasibility check for every student, and we are identifying universities as easy, medium, and hard. Okay, so that is something that we are doing. Can you share LOR templates? So there is no particular template that has to be followed when drafting a letter of recommendation, because like I said, a template makes an LOR very generic. Okay, so when we are drafting a letter of recommendation, it's usually very specific to the student. It's very specifically designed and drafted for a student, and we don't follow any templates. Okay, can you share the recording of this meeting? Yeah, of course, we will be sharing the link to the when we will upload this recording on our YouTube channel. And all of you who have registered for this webinar will receive a link to that recording, and you can view this session at your own pace later on if you are facing, or if you have faced any issues, technical glitches while going through this webinar, or even if you had joined late. Okay, does conferences where I have not presented anything need to be added? Okay, so it's always better to add conferences which you have presented at, but then if you have not presented at any conference, you can also mention the conferences that you have attended and what you learned from those conferences. That is something that you can do. Can we talk over a phone call? It's always better to reach out to us over email first, and then when we know your details, then we can actually guide you in a much better way. Okay, because then also if you send me a mail, I can look over your profile, I can go through your profile, and then I can respond you in a much better fashion. Okay. Another question, this is the last one that we'll be taking. If I'm an undergrad student with a publication as the first author at a workshop, can I find a funded MSc opportunity? If not, can I apply to direct PhD funded positions? So if you are an undergrad student, it is always better to apply. If you are particularly interested in PhD, it's always better to apply for integrated PhD options rather than applying for direct PhD, because getting admits to direct PhD will you'll face a competition from lot of other candidates who have probably done a lot of more research experience than you in during their masters or during their work ex. Okay, so if you are an undergrad student, better to apply for masters, or you can also apply for funding at integrated PhDs. Okay, so that is also something that you can do. So so sorry, can you repeat? How can I view the recording? I will be sending an email to all the registrants of this webinar where I will be mentioning the link to the YouTube recording, so you can watch this recording later on. Okay. And for all of you whose questions have not been answered through this webinar, please send out an email to hello@flyvidesh.com with your questions, and we'll be happy to get back to you. Okay. So we are now at the end of today's webinar, and we will also post the details for our next webinar, probably in the next week. But then that's it for now. Thank you so much for attending, and thank you so much. Have a great evening. Thank you.